welcome to Season 3, Episode 5 of the Pitchside Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Matt Cooper.
Hello.
Lewis Tizard.
Hello.
And the returning Harry Trend.
Hello, hello.
This week, we'll be discussing the historic moment for Liverpool FC as they won their first title in 30 years. We'll also be breaking down sort of the relegation battle, as there were some important games in that this weekend. And we'll also be talking about the FA Cup, where the quarterfinals took place, and we now have our last four. There's only one place we can start, and that is with Liverpool FC.
Oh, Adam, I thought the first place we could start was with the return of Harry Trend.
Oh, yes, even more historic than, even bigger than Liverpool in the league. How are you, Harry? How have you been?
Looking off Villa's results, not great to be honest, but yeah, I don't know. I feel a bit pressured today. I'm not sure. You know, the content's been stepped up a bit with all this Dalai Lama chat. So hopefully I'll be able to make the step up with you.
So, after hearing last week's podcast, he made a special request to me to come on to this week. He wants to jump in on the fun. Love it. So, Harry, at the start of the series, we all did a bit on where we are now in terms of in our careers and stuff, because obviously this is your first one back after a year. So, where are you at? What are you up to now since the year away at uni?
I'm still doing my journalism, just bits and bobs. Not really, not really getting paid for any football stuff, but it's more like the running stuff I'm looking into, which is, I've got my own running website now. I do marketing for a shoe company, just a running shop basically. But yeah, just keeping up with the writing on my Villa website as well, and keeping up to date as we all do with the ongoings, and just doing it mainly for fun now. I'd probably say the more football journalism. So
under the gaslit lamp.
Under a gaslit lamp, there you are.
Plug for you. There you go.
Buy the merch as well. We've got magazines.
We help each other here.
Harry, is there a discount code at checkout?
Yeah. I can put it in the link in the description below.
I'll have to chat with my CEO for that.
I'll have a chat with your boys. We now will get on to Liverpool FC, who after 30 years finally got to the pinnacle of English football and winning the Premier League after Chelsea beat their closest rivals, Man City, on last Thursday night by 2-1. Lewis, obviously we have to start with you, being our Liverpool fan. Just describe that moment when the final whistle blew at Stamford Bridge and it was confirmed that Liverpool had won the league.
Oh, like the wait is over. It was just absolutely ecstatic, obviously. Buzzing. Obviously, it's been such a long wait. Obviously, we've a number of second place finishes in that sort of 30-year wait, and a number of times we've come close. But to finally get there was just, it was brilliant. I mean, the couple of days after were a bit weird for me because I kind of felt this sense of like we've sort of completed it. Like in terms of winning the Premier League and the Champions League, we've sort of done what we set out to do. It was kind of like a bit like end of the road. Where do we go from here? But obviously. Really, really pleased. Bit of a weird way it happened, obviously, in terms of us not physically playing. But Chelsea obviously did us a massive favour. It was a pretty entertaining game to watch as it was, which I'm sure we'll get onto. But thanks to Chelsea and Liverpool Premier League champions. It sounds pretty good.
Matt, with Jurgen Klopp came into Liverpool in, I think it's like November 2015. And we've seen sort of a journey of the last 5 years with Jurgen Klopp there. What was the turning point for you in terms of, right, Klopp can actually take this team somewhere and they can actually start winning trophies? Was there a point for you where Liverpool mean business now with Jurgen Klopp in charge?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult question to answer, really, isn't it? When he came in, that was sort of a team in a bit of disarray. You look at some of that team that Brendan Rodgers played in the Champions League against Real Madrid, for example, and you just look at some of the names on that team sheet, and there just was not much there to work with. But the work he did with sort of Coutinho sort of stands out, the way he helped him go to the next level. And then you think once Coutinho got sold, getting that money and being able to reinvest it in Virgil van Dijk and Alisson, I think would really sort of help Liverpool make the step from a very good side into a team which, looked like they were really going to challenge on both a domestic and European front, because, even under Brendan Rodgers, they had so much great attacking, so much sort of depth to their attack. But with Van Dijk at the back and Alisson, a much safer pair of hands than Karius and Mignolet, it's sort of just taken them that next step.
Lewis, I'll throw that one to you then. Where's the turning point for you where you thought we mean business here? We're going to start winning things?
Yeah, I think like Matt said, the Coutinho sale and the purchases of Alisson and Van Dijk were crucial, because the attacking football's always been there, as Matt said, ever since the Rodgers era. The attacking football's been there, but obviously, they say that title-winning teams are built on their defence and the ability to keep clean sheets and having a top-quality goalkeeper. And obviously, the additions of Van Dijk and Alisson were crucial in that. And yeah, it's just been a sort of upward trajectory ever since Klopp's arrived. Really, we've been improving season upon season, getting better and better, and slowly progressing towards the team that's obviously sort of destroyed all before them this season and has won the Premier League.
Harry, where do you see Liverpool going from here? As Lewis mentioned earlier, he said that he felt like, well, this is it. We've reached the top where the journey has sort of come to an end. Where do you think Liverpool go from here, and what do they need to do to maybe progress even further?
Well, I think for now it's kind of about building that dynasty and possibly retaining the Premier League title for seasons to come. Obviously, Man United have done it. Chelsea did it, 2 seasons in a row. And just keeping up that kind of intensity, because they kind of they start the season as they meant to go on. And I watched a Klopp interview earlier this morning. He said, well, we can still improve the team, but keeping that intensity is going to be very difficult. So, I think if there is going to be a manager to kind of win back-to-back titles, it's going to be someone like Jurgen Klopp, with kind of that drive he has. But yeah, I think that's the main thing, just winning back-to-back titles. And I remember it might have been the year before last actually. You saying, Lewis, that the only kind of difference between Liverpool and Man City at that time was the squad depth. And I think the huge thing is now that Liverpool do have that squad depth. So in terms of kind of building the team and kind of preparing it for next season, there's not much that Klopp really needs to do. So yeah, I think they're all kind of well set up to win it. Maybe next year they're the favourites, certainly.
Liverpool won the league obviously after the game between Chelsea and Man City, which ended 2-1 to the home side, which handed Liverpool the title. Lewis, how nerve-wracking was that for you watching that game?
I like the phrase "handed the title" there, Adam, because by the time Fernandinho got sent off, it was actually quite a good way of describing it. I was actually on a quiz throughout the sort of the first 60 minutes of the game, sort of half doing the quiz, half watching the game. So, because to be honest, you always give Chelsea a chance. They're at home. Chelsea are a decent side, but I thought, Man City will win this game and it will go to the game on Thursday between City and Liverpool at the Etihad. But yeah, obviously Pulisic got a breakaway goal, and then you still sort of think City are going to get back into it, which obviously they do with their best player by a mile this season, De Bruyne, great free kick. And then, it's all unravelled a bit for City at the end. Obviously, Sterling had the great chance to make it 2-1 when he hit the post. But yeah, come the end of the game, I don't really think you could doubt or you could deny that Chelsea would probably deserve to get something from the game.
Chelsea do seem to have a history of winning titles for other teams. Obviously, it was 4 years ago where they drew 2-2 with Spurs to hand Leicester the title. So it seems that if you can't win a title in the game yourself, you just you call on Chelsea and they'll do a favour for you. Matt, would you say that was one of the games of the season? And obviously, even without the implications, it was a very entertaining game. I say end to end is at some points it was like a basketball game, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was comfortably, I think, the best game since football has returned. You know, it was, and I mean, going into it, obviously, the fact that there was a lot on the line definitely helped it. You know, obviously, the implications for Liverpool and City is sort of well documented, but for Chelsea, with sort of everyone around them gunning for their fourth spot, you know, it was a very important win for them. And yeah, I mean, just sort of the attacking play from both sides was pretty good. Pulisic has actually looked very, very good since we've come back from lockdown. But I mean, it was quite surprising that Chelsea did end up with the win, because I think pre that game, Man City had looked the best team since football had returned in their previous fixtures.
Harry, could you see Chelsea being a strong outfit next season? Do you think that was even a statement of intent from them with that victory?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a statement of intent. And you see in the summer now, when they've got the likes of Timo Werner coming in, the squad's going to improve. And of course, they've got these young players that have come through this season, such as Mason Mount, Billy Gilmore. So yeah, I think Chelsea are kind of the dark horse, if you want, for next season. And I think, you know, with Lampard, they've got, you know, he's not the most experienced manager, but he's kind of cut his teeth this season, and he's shown he's more than capable.
Just to round off talking about Liverpool, Lewis, where do you see things sort of heading for next season in terms of what your transfer window is going to be like, and what can we expect from Liverpool next year?
Well, what transfer window? I mean, we're not gonna sign anyone by the looks of it. I mean, I'd love. I mean, obviously, Harry was talking earlier about sort of how you know, what we need to do to, you know, build a dynasty. And look, two signings I'd love us to make would be Saka from Arsenal and Adama Traore. Obviously, Werner would have been brilliant, but I just think Traore is that sort of fourth quality attacker that Liverpool have probably been looking for a few seasons now. But that's what I want. And obviously, coronavirus and the financial implications it's had seems like it's going to prevent some clubs like Liverpool from sort of doing any serious business, or at the very least make it sort of sell to buy for clubs in the upcoming window, which I think Liverpool will probably be one of those teams. But I mean, obviously the news today, the African Cup of Nations won't be happening in sort of January, February of next season, is a big plus for Liverpool. Obviously would have affected Mane, Salah and Keita. So that's a big positive. And yeah, I think we're in a really good position to challenge again next season, even if we don't make a couple of sort of nice additions. You know, Man City are sort of in a transition period where they've still got the backlog of the sort of 30-plus-year-olds in Aguero and Fernandinho that are sort of gradually phasing out, and obviously the, you know, potential Champions League ban for them could be massive in terms of replacing the likes of Aguero and Fernandinho. So yeah, Liverpool are in a good place next season, but like Harry says, Chelsea could be one to watch out for, Man United potentially as well. So yeah, next season, I imagine, I don't think you'll get teams getting to 90-plus points, but it could be a lot more competitive in terms of more than two teams challenging for the title.
Right, we're going to move on to Odd One Outs. Harry, you must remember how this game is played. You haven't forgotten, have you?
I just remember a lot of arguments. That's all I remember.
A lot of technicalities in the answers, but we haven't had many disagreements this year yet.
We're all older, more mature now. I think that's what it is.
We're all older and wiser and uglier. Right, so I'm going to give you the four options and see what you can come out of these four.
There's always been a really random one when I've been on this season.
This might be a bit of an easier one this week. I want people to start getting points. So the four players are Dejan Lovren, Jordan Henderson, James Milner, and Adam Lallana.
You had to make it a Liverpool-related one, didn't you? So I'm going to look bad if I don't get it.
Oh, the pressure's on you, Lewis, now. Yes, if you hadn't guessed, they're all Liverpool players. Harry, anything springing out? Any early thoughts?
I've got something here.
Oh, he's got something.
Unfortunately, I can't reference the Villa days Milner had. Or,
Well, it might have something to do with that. You don't know.
or
It might just be that James Milner played for Villa.
the
Maybe
only one
one
playing under Alex
To-
Mcleish, is it?
to mark Harry's return. You never know. This return is bigger than you thought, Harry.
See, now I'm just trying to think about Adam's mentality in terms of what we're...
Above everything else, that's what you got to be.
Oh,
Yeah, he's a sneaky one, this Adam. Sometimes he'll put an easy one in, and sometimes it'll look easy, but then it.
Well,
it's
see,
something behind it.
that's the beauty of odd one out.
It is, yeah.
You never know which one's the red herring
Oh.
and what I'm looking for. Right, we'll come back to that at the end of the show. And we'll continue with our Premier League chat, as there has been some Premier League games over the last 7 days. I mean, the football's non-stop at the moment, so we won't stop either. Harry, being the Aston Villa fan, I think we'll start with you. You've had a couple of games in the last over the last 7 days. The first one being a 1-1 draw against Newcastle, which, I mean, for you is a vital point, I would have thought. And then on Saturday, it was a hard 1-0 defeat to Wolves. How did those games go for you? Did you expect more from those, or especially judging by the way you played in both of them?
I think, like, ideally from the Newcastle game, we would have got all 3 points. I haven't seen, especially kind of the consensus among Villa fans at the minute is we are going down. And the point being that we just can't score at the minute. I mean, I saw a stat the other day. It's Courtney Hawes, who's one of our centre-backs. He's had, I think it's a bit more than the quarter of our shots since football's returned, which is not a good sign.
No.
Yeah, and I mean the Wolves game was really depressing. There was just no forward movement. Dean Smith actually tried 2 up front for the first time this season, Keenan Davis and Samatta, and it just didn't help matters. And I was writing an article about Hotter today, he's been out of the team for most of the season. I'm kind of thinking, maybe he could come back in and change something with his creativity. But at this point, I think as a lot of Villa fans are, we're just kind of clutching at straws because it's not looking good. And the only saving grace is Bournemouth look pretty bad, and so do West Ham.
Yeah. Harry, do you think the main problem is the lack of the goals being scored and the over-reliance on Grealish?
Yeah, I think. I think they're both valid points. I mean, Grealish against Wolves, he was kind of coming deep to collect the ball because he's Jack Grealish. He's our best player. He wants to do everything himself, and coming deep means he can't affect the play in the final third, which is a bit of a problem. And yes, scoring goals as well. Obviously, we had Tammy Abraham last year who was banging them in, and I think we could have really done with someone of his calibre this season. With Wesley injured this term, Codger wasn't up to it, so we've just got 2 kind of senior strikers. Keenan Davis, you couldn't really call a senior striker. He hasn't actually played that much, and Samatta's untested. So yeah, I think when you look at teams in the past, the teams at the bottom have always stayed up because they've had that kind of striker to rely on, and unfortunately we don't. And I think that's what might send us down.
Yeah. I feel like that's what we spent most of last season's podcast talking about towards the end of the season, was you've got to have a goal scorer.
Another big game in the sort of relegation battle over the weekend, which is on Sunday evening, was Watford versus Southampton. Southampton getting an impressive 3-1 win away at Watford. They've only picked up 1 point from these 3 games they've come back. Should they start to worry?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're only 1 point off the relegation spots, you've always got to worry, especially when you're, like you said, struggling to pick up points. The only saving grace they might have is just how poor Aston Villa, Bournemouth and West Ham have been below them. But, I mean, it didn't help matters when it was, Andre Gray and Chalobah and there was someone else were kicked out the matchday squad because they had a party at Andre Gray's house. And, I mean, the words after the match as well from Ben Foster talking about how the team has just sort of lost their fight that they'd sort of shown when Pearson first came in. It does make for worrying reading if you're a Watford fan, but, they may well just end up staying up by virtue of the fact that all the teams below them can't buy a win either. So it's a difficult one. It's going to be so unpredictable. It could just come down to one of those four teams gets lucky and manages to nab a win from somewhere. But you just struggle to see where it's going to come from for either of them. Well, any of them, yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at the table this morning and, like, you normally talk about, 40 points is what you need to stay up. I honestly reckon, 35 points might be enough this year. I think there's three of them obviously Norwich are pretty much down, but I think there's then three teams on 27 and then Watford are on 28. So I'd literally say if teams can get 2 wins from their final 7 games, that 2 wins will probably be enough to keep you up.
Who do we think are going to go down then? Who are we tipping to go down? Obviously Norwich probably down by this point, but
yeah, they're long gone. I'd probably chuck Bournemouth in there as well. I just think they're in deep trouble, and I don't really see much hope for them. And I generally think it's going to come down to the final day out of West Ham and Aston Villa. Obviously, they play each other. I generally think that could be a loser goes down situation.
But it feels like it's been seasons since we've had a final day relegation.
Yeah, one of those matches.
Decider, yeah. I kind of almost feel like West Ham, because for Watford, Bournemouth and Villa, they've got 2 sort of winnable games and then all the rest are pretty difficult. Whereas West Ham's fixtures on paper, they've got 4, you could argue, are more winnable games. So I think maybe just by virtue of their fixtures remaining, West Ham have maybe got the best chance out of those 4 teams that are in and amongst it.
One team that is sort of drifting out of the relegation battle with a few good results since the return of Brighton, who are actually currently playing as we speak. Now, I've just seen they're currently 1-0 down to Manchester United. Oh, 2-0. Sorry. 2-0.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking. Bruno Fernandes has literally just scored, which is good for my...
the FPL points!
The FPL points are rolling in. Lewis, is it you that's got Wan-Bissaka?
Wan-Bissaka!
Oh, I brought in Luke Shaw this week.
Wait, do you know who assisted? I
haven't seen who's assisted the second goal.
Oh, don't be Rashford, as long as it's not Marcus Rashford.
Mason Greenwood scored the first, and Bruno Fernandes has just scored the second. But Brighton have picked up some pretty impressive results. Obviously, the first game back, winning at home to Arsenal, and then picking up a point against Leicester. Is this a turning point for Brighton, Lewis?
Yeah, the old club.
Yes, obviously, all 3 of you worked for Brighton last year. So I'm guessing you're happy to see them well, and you don't want to see them go down.
Yeah.
And do you think they could? Do you think that this is going to be the case for them near enough every season until they go down? They're going to be in this relegation scrap.
Yeah, it's hard to see them not involved in a sort of position like this most seasons. I mean, looking at the team they started tonight, there's a few teams down in the bottom. When their team sheet comes out, you're just there's just not really
They've lost already
much quality in there. And they're probably going to lose this game. You look at, I don't know, I just think a team like a Southampton is probably better placed to sort of propel themselves up a bit, like Burnley have done, like Palace have done. I just think Brighton aren't in that position yet where they can progress from a sort of fighting relegation every season to a sort of mid-table side just yet.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I think it's going to take them a few seasons under Graham Potter. I mean, to change the style of play from Chris Hughton being sort of very defensive minded to Potter wanting to play a bit more expansive type of football. I think we've seen that it's taken them a bit of time to get used to it, but I mean, Southampton are sort of a decent example where, give them a few seasons to sort of settle in, and then it'll go one of two ways. They'll either be like a Southampton and maybe sort of kick on for a few seasons, or they'll just end up straight back down in the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing Brighton have got going for them is the fact they've got Graham Potter, who, of course, built a very successful team with Ostersunds, with kind of finding bargains here and there, like Sisto, I believe, was one of his signings. So hopefully for Brighton fans, they maybe find a couple of hidden gems in the summer. Scour across Europe. But like Lewis said, I think at the minute they're just lacking quality. But at the same time, I think they'll be all right.
Obviously, you three were there all last season, and towards the end, it was looking pretty bad for them. Obviously, they had a terrible end to last season, but just about stayed up, and it ended up costing Chris Hughton his job. Graham Potter's come in and brought this new style of play, but obviously looking at the table and where they are they much better than they were last season?
Well, I think we've seen sort of the time they've needed to adapt, because it is a real sort of 180 turn in their style of play. I mean, they've switched to, at times, playing a back three, and I mean, there's been a complete move away from the reliance on Glenn Murray up front with the goals, with Neil Maupay coming in and getting a lot of very, very important goals. But they've also got a lot of young players that have actually come through and done pretty well. You look at, I mean, obviously they're losing at the moment, but they've got Aaron Connolly and Alexis McAllister leading the line. And you look at Tariq Lamptey that they signed from Chelsea. They've got a couple of decent young players. So I think, you've just got to give him time, Graham Potter, because it is just such a drastic change of mindset.
Yeah, and no disrespect. I mean, the football cannot be any worse than it was last season. I mean, it was just, there was no attacking identity. As you say, Matt, no disrespect to Glenn Murray, but there was just such a reliance on him. And yeah, it was just bad being at some of those games in terms of just Brighton just not looking like they were going to be able to score a goal.
Yeah, I think kind of one of the differences between that, last season and this season, Brighton is last season, lots of the sidings didn't work out. They had that, like your Cambash, Lockheed, a lovely guy, by the way. I've interviewed him. But yeah, Lockheed, Andone, yeah, he was one. Although we did score that crucial goal against Huddersfield, I believe. But
yeah,
those guys, they failed, and then they had to kind of bring Glenn Murray into the starting 11, who I'm pretty sure Hughton didn't want to be starting him all the time. But he had no other choice. But now, like you say, Maupay, who's looks to be a decent player. He's a bit kind of hot-headed, and I kind of like that about him. He's got a bit of fight about him, and if Graham Potter can, like I said, buy some more players like that, I think they'll progress next season.
Right, we're going to move on to another new game. Who Are You is going to take a back seat to this week. This game is actually from last week's Who Are You, the one for Kieran, as you can remember. One of the facts about Brian Blessed that I told him is that he once sparred with the Dalai Lama, which I researched and found. Well, Brian Blessed claimed he'd done that. So
right.
A new game we're going to do this week for you, Harry and Lewis, is we're going to give you a fact about Brian Blessed, and you have to guess whether it's true or false.
Why is it Brian Blessed? Or you just don't question it? That's the game. You don't question it.
It's Brian Blessed. You don't question Brian Blessed.
I'm not.
Brian Blessed has sparred with the Dalai Lama.
Exactly. You don't want to mess with Brian Blessed. So. Matt's been doing his Brian Blessed research all week. That's all he's been doing. He's been telling me all about it, and he's going to give you. He's going to give you a Brian Blessed fact or fiction. So, over to you, Matt. Who do you want to start with?
Let's go with Harry. Do you right, let's go with this one. Brian Blessed counts his worst vice as the fact that he can't stop eating Bulgarian yogurt.
Right.
Fact or fiction?
Can I just say this is the greatest game I've ever had?
It's a very good game, yeah. It's kind of like Would I Lie to You, but you've got to...
It's just Brian Blessed.
It's Brian Blessed.
You've got to get yourself into the zone of Brian Blessed.
Exactly.
So yeah, just going off that, I bet I can see him kind of picking up 5 yogurts and go just like, those frubes. He probably has the Bulgarian in the frubes, just squeezing them in. So yeah, I'm going to go fact for that one.
It is a fact.
There you go.
It is true. He loves Bulgarian yogurt.
Bulgarian yogurt. So Harry gets the point there. Lewis, I've got a Brian Blessed one for you. You have to. I found it. I was looking this up earlier, and I just thought.
I will just
outrageous fact.
I will just admit that I wasn't too sure who you were talking about in regards to Brian Blessed, so I just googled his name 5 seconds ago and saw his picture, and I now know who you're talking about.
Oh, I'm hoping you didn't see this fact about him either. Or is it fiction? He once knocked out a bear with a log in the Yellowstone National Park.
Knocked out a bear with a log. See, if he's going to knock out a bear in a national park, it probably is going to be with a log, because I don't see what other weapon you'd have in a national park.
According to this article, he says the bear didn't actually see him. He just ran up behind it and just knocked it clean out. Back of the egg with
just
the log.
For no reason.
Yeah. Well, to protect himself. I think he said it. I think it says he was with some friends as well. So he just knocked it out with a log.
I'm gonna say. See, I have a feeling he did. I'm feeling he did knock an animal out with a log while he was there, but it wasn't a bear. So I'm gonna go fiction.
It is fiction. I just made that completely up. Yeah, there's no article on that whatsoever. I just come up with that.
So he didn't knock any animal out with a log?
Oh, I don't know. We might have to
do probably has a
deeper research.
Maybe he did. It's just not in writing. That's the thing.
Yeah. Maybe
the bear was trying to steal his Bulgarian yogurt.
Yeah. He was worried that because the Yellowstone National Park bears are known for stealing people's Bulgarian yogurt. So Brian Blessed had seen that and
just ask Evgeny.
Taking any chances.
I knew the Evgeny reference would come up. I knew it.
The Evgeny reference has come in.
I thought that was what might make you think it was fiction.
So after 1 week of the Brian Blessed fact or fiction, it's a point each for Harry and Lewis. We need to come up with a special name for this game.
Blessed or blessed?
We'll in the meeting, in the weekly meeting,
we'll brainstorm some names.
Yeah, we'll brainstorm. Right.
Or Brain or Brian.
Yeah. As we said, we'll brainstorm.
Sorry, we'll brainstorm.
We're Brain or Brainstorm.
Now we should move on to the return of the FA Cup, the final 8, which took place over the weekend. The first match was on Saturday evening. Actually, it was only one match on the Saturday, and that was Norwich versus Manchester United, which was actually quite a good tie. I mean, Norwich were in the game for quite a lot of it. It was an 118th minute winner from Harry Maguire, which settled the tie. And in the end, I felt quite sorry for Norwich, especially Tim Krul, because obviously he's the penalty master, and I think that's what Norwich were going for. Obviously, being down to 10 men, they were trying to get to penalties, and hopefully Tim Krul could work his magic. But unfortunately, in the 118th minute, Harry Maguire came up with the winner. And do you think Norwich deserved a bit more from that?
I mean, first of all, I will say it was an absolute outrage, as it is whenever it happens, that we were denied a penalty shootout. I mean, seeing a second half of extra time winner is one of the worst things in football, as it denies you,
especially as a neutral.
Yeah, especially exactly as a neutral. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that it was closer that got sent off, wasn't it? So
yeah, just before. I think that was in like the 89th minute, wasn't it? Yeah, just before.
It was in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I think he probably did make the right decision. I think Ighalo probably would have turned and scored. So I think he probably did correctly take one for the team there and get sent off. To be fair, I'm surprised Norwich took it as far as they did in extra time. I thought Man United would have sort of gone 2-1 up quite quickly, and then maybe gone 3-1 up sort of towards the end of extra time. But yeah, Norwich did well, and like you say, you know, if it goes to penalties, all of Man United's dominance throughout the game goes out the window because penalties are a lottery. So yeah, Norwich will be considering themselves a bit unlucky, but I think on the balance of play, United probably did deserve to win.
Matt, do you see Todd Cantwell being at Norwich next season? I mean, he's proven that he's been their best player by, I won't say a country mile because we've got Timo Pukki there as well, but he's been one of their better players. And do you think he's too good for the Championship? Do you think he'll still be in the Premier League next season, even if Norwich aren't?
Yeah, I can definitely see him. So there'll definitely be Premier League sides interested in his services. It just depends with, you know, all the sort of financial uncertainty with everything that's going on, whether, you know, what Norwich are demanding for him and whether a club will be willing to pay that. You know, it's a difficult one because Norwich, obviously, they're building something there. They got promoted a season too early. But, you know, I think Cantwell's sort of the only real worry they've got about players leaving. But, yeah, it all sort of comes down to finances, doesn't it? Because, I mean, there's loads of players that you've seen that have played well for sides that have got relegated over the years and you thought, oh, they'll be straight back up in the Premier League and, you know, they don't get the move immediately and then it never comes. But he does look a very good player. It's just, you know, which team will come in for him and how much will they have to pay?
See, I've just got to disagree with that, Matt, in terms of Cantwell be the only one. I think most of that Norwich team, and probably more than, say, a Watford or an Aston Villa if they went down, I'd say there's a lot of that Norwich team, Premier League teams, would be interested in buying. I think, you know, Godfrey, Aarons, the right back, Lewis, the left back, Cantwell, Buendia. I think at least half that Norwich sort of starting 11 Premier League teams would be interested in buying.
Well, the thing I think with that is the likes of Godfrey and Aarons and Lewis, I think they're so young that, you know, there's no need for them to go now. And sort of obviously with everything that's going on, I think a lot of teams will say, oh, well, we can come back in for them later.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think nowadays players are kind of more wary of going to these bigger clubs and maybe not starting. I mean, I can give quite a lot of examples. But Scott Sinclair at Man City, for example, you know, he had a great time at Swansea and then he goes to Man City, he doesn't start and that's his kind of career downhill from there. And I think it would be nice to see a lot of these Norwich players stay together. I think it depends on, you know, how well they get on with the manager as well. But if Norwich do go down, they'll definitely be a force next season in the Championship.
The second quarter final was on Sunday lunchtime, which was Sheffield United versus Arsenal, which ended 2-1 to Arsenal with a late goal from Dani Ceballos. And again, I wasn't impressed by the Arsenal performance. It was quite a poor one. But obviously, when it's cup football, it's a results game. But again, Arsenal looked very fragile defensively, didn't they, Lewis?
Yeah, and I mean, the Arsenal winner was totally against the run of play. Sheffield United had a sort of a couple of corners in succession. And it looked like if there was going to be a winner, it was going to be a Sheffield United winner. Obviously, you know, they had the momentum from getting the equaliser pretty late on. And so, yeah, the fact Arsenal went down the other end and scored was quite a surprise. But I mean, look, I think there were a few positives from the Arsenal display. I think Arsenal fans were quite happy with Maitland-Niles at right back, and as the fans have seemingly fallen out of favour with Hector Bellerin this season. Saka again looks quite good, but as you say, I mean, this Arsenal team. We talked earlier about teams challenging for the title. Even the likes of Chelsea and Man United are light years ahead of that Arsenal team. Like, you're talking. I say light years. You put it in context in terms of seasons. I'd say another Arsenal probably 2-3 seasons, even behind Chelsea and Arsenal. Never mind how far behind they are Man City and Liverpool.
Do you think the absence of Aubameyang was noticeable in that performance, Matt? Do you think Arsenal played it sort of hindered their performance? They couldn't play the way they usually did without that pace of Aubameyang in those forward areas.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you've seen Aubameyang he's been a constant goal threat, whether he's been played through the middle or out wide, and he's probably the only player in that squad that you could say is anywhere near, world class. But I mean, the sort of attack is not really their biggest worry. I mean, you've seen Nicolas Pepe sort of started to show what he can do, why he was bought for so much money after what was a pretty slow start. Bukayo Saka, after being sort of moved a bit further forward, has done well. And I mean, Nketiah has got a few goals. So it's not really the attack that's that much of a worry. It's just the defence is so poor. I mean, we say it every week about Arsenal, just how bad their defence is. And there's a real sort of lack of creativity in the midfield. They've got a lot of sort of young central midfielders coming through as well, but they're not quite at the level that they need to be. So it's a real difficult job that they've got on their hands. They've got to decide what direction they want to go, whether they want to keep giving chances to the youngsters and bringing them through, or whether they're going to have to go out and spend, which you can't really see them doing.
I've actually got a theory on the lack of creativity for these young players for Arsenal. Is if you kind of watch some of the academy players, it's kind of pass, non-stop passing, but I think maybe they're not so much as encouraged to play that kind of killer ball. It's more about keeping the ball, and that kind of means those players who might play the killer ball and use it aren't as regarded as much as the players who just keep the ball and play it simple. I don't know. It might just be a theory, but I've gone on a tangent there.
I can sort of see where you're coming from, because obviously they're heavily reliant on Özil on that creativity. And obviously, as we've seen over the last few years, is that you can't really rely on Özil in every week in, week out. So do you think even Özil needs a bit more creativity around him? And obviously he hasn't really got that. Do you think they've been too reliant on Özil for creativity, Arsenal?
I don't really think it'll be a problem, because Özil won't be there next season. I think it's as simple as that. And I think Arsenal fans will be massively glad for him to go. I mean, obviously, I think they won't really get a transfer fee for him, because I'm pretty sure his contract expires at the end of this season. But obviously, in terms of off the wage bill, it's probably about 300,000 at least off the wage bill. I just think that Arsenal team, they're not even in a position where you can say, okay, one or two key signings would transform the Arsenal team. They need like a handful of key signings. You'd argue a new centre-back, possibly a new right-back, a new defensive midfielder, a new central midfielder, a new left winger. That Arsenal team needs a lot of work. But the one positive for Arteta is the youngsters that, he's got to build with as well.
The first quarter final on Sunday from over the weekend, was Leicester versus Chelsea. Not really much to go over in that one. I mean, it ended 1-0 to Chelsea with a goal from Ross Barkley. But one noticeable thing was Lampard's made 3 changes at half-time, and bringing on, I think it was Barkley, Kovacic and
Azpilicueta.
And it's proof that that was a stroke of genius from Frank Lampard.
Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry, Matt. Do you want to?
No, you go.
All right. It definitely did change the game, and kind of just bringing it back to the Villa game. Lampard did the same thing. He brought on a raft of substitutions, and they turned the game in his favour. So again, I touched on it earlier how Lampard's kind of turned Chelsea around, especially in the new year as well. I saw a stat that I believe it was. So basically, he's closed the gap between Chelsea and Leicester to 1 point, and I believe it was for the sake of it. That was it. Since the 21st of Feb, Leicester were 9 points ahead of Chelsea in third, and now they're just the 1 point behind. So I think it's kind of credit to Lampard again that he's done these. He's put them on such good form, and these substitutions. Chelsea always have good players to bring off the bench. Ross Barkley in good form as well. So all positive for Chelsea, and I think they could go and win it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Chelsea was sort of one of the teams that was fighting for this increased substitution rule to be brought in, and I mean you can see why. They had, Billy Gilmour made his first start and he looked a little bit off the pace. Bring on Kovacic, a bit more experience, a bit more calmness on the ball, and he looked to help sort of dictate the tempo. And obviously Barkley coming on for Mount and getting the goal. But I mean, Leicester must be wondering how they did not manage to score in that first half. They were comfortably the better team, and then coming into that second half, those substitutions just sort of brought Chelsea back into the game. And with the scores 0-0, they're able to nip in and finish their chance and get the winner. And it's sort of a stark change in fortunes for Leicester and Chelsea, both pre-lockdown, when, like you said, Leicester were 9 points clear and Chelsea were the ones that were sort of dropping points left, right and centre, and people were worried that Chelsea were going to be the ones caught. And now it looks like Leicester are in real trouble of dropping out of the Champions League places, and Chelsea look to be, relatively safe.
Yeah, go on, Adam. We'll throw it to you. Just in terms of what do you put like Leicester's decline in the last few months down to? Because obviously, as Matt said, it looked like Leicester were going to sort of be locked on for third, and all of a sudden, they can't buy a win.
I think they maybe burnt out a little bit. They were in such good form. They were playing so well at the beginning of the season, and I think maybe they're mentally burnt out. And I think losing 4-0 at home to Liverpool absolutely destroyed them in terms of, because at that point they weren't far off Liverpool and everyone was backing them to beat them and give Liverpool a good title race. But then Liverpool just went, no, you're not, and just battered them 4-0 at the King Power. And I think from then, I think the players' confidence just was shot a bit. And as you say, they haven't picked up many points at all in the last week, even before lockdown. They were struggling for form and they haven't won a game since the return, I don't think. So, I just think they were mentally and physically burnt out from such a great run they were on at the start of the season. But I think I want to say they're nailed on for a Champions League spot, but they're going to have to start winning a few games to get that. And I think if they're going to do anything in the Champions League next season, they are going to have to make some signings. But you can't take away what an incredible season they've had. I mean, no one had Leicester in the top 4, maybe not even the top 6 at the beginning of the season. So to prove all those doubters wrong, and you can't deny that Brendan Rodgers has done such a great job. And Leicester shouldn't be too disheartened by this bad run of form at the moment, but I think they'll want to guarantee that top 4 place and be in Champions League next season, because I think that's the least that they deserve from the terrific season they've had up to this point. And the final quarter-final was Newcastle versus Manchester City, and I had the pleasure of sitting through the entire 90 minutes of that. I mean, it was how I expected it to go when I saw that that Newcastle had started fight up the back, gone back to raffle ball 5-2-3. I expected to just Man City to have a lot of the ball and Newcastle just to sit behind them and just do whatever they can to defend. And I think we played really well, especially in the first half. Yeah, we lost 2-0. We didn't have many chances, but I think the 2 goals came from individual mistakes, individual errors. First one obviously come from a silly, stupid push from Fabian Schär, which he did not need to do on Gabriel Jesus. I mean, Gabriel Jesus was getting nowhere near that header from that cross, and Schär has pushed him over. Not many of the players actually spotted it. It was only the referee, so there wasn't really much of a reaction when they gave the penalty. But there wasn't no fans there, so. But yeah, he gave away the penalty, and De Bruyne is going to slot it away the season he's had. And then their second goal came soon after the terrible miss. Well, we should have been 1-1. Dwight Gale from 6 yards out should be scoring. You'd have thought he got his goal form back after his goal against Villa, but no, the regular Dwight Gale come back and he put it wide from 6 yards, and I don't really understand how. And I think that just proved that he's just not up to doesn't cut the mustard of the Premier League, to be honest. He's one of those fringe players where he's too good for the Championship, but just isn't that Premier League player. And not long after that miss, Raheem Sterling checks in onto his right foot from the edge of the box. We've seen him do it a couple of times this season. Slots it away into the bottom right-hand corner past Carl Darlow. And then that was it, really. Once that second goal went in, that was the game done, really. 2-0.
Adam, I mean, if there was one positive, it was probably that you weren't the team wearing that horrendous away kit.
Yeah. The yellow and orange.
Yellow and orange, yeah. The smoothie.
I've got 2 bits of miscellaneous stuff from that game. Number one, did you see Steve Bruce kind of walk past Kevin De Bruyne at the end, and he's like, I forgot what he said exactly, but it was something like, I want you to stay here, son. You're staying here with me.
No, I think...
if you haven't seen it, Adam, you need to go.
Once that Newcastle takeover comes in, you never...
Exactly. Yeah. He'll be feeding them into Dwight Gale next season. And Harry, what was your other...
Oh yeah, the other ones. I know it's still on the topic of Newcastle. It's not about the game, but today was the day that Pardiola's contract finally ended.
Wow!
So
end of an era.
Yeah, I mean, knowing Newcastle, yes, they let it roll over, but
yeah. And there's an option of an extra year on that, which I wouldn't be surprised if it was triggered. But we have our FA Cup Final Four, and the draw was made during the half-time interval between Newcastle, which is very strange, something I've never seen before. But so the draw was made that it was Manchester City versus Arsenal and Manchester United versus Chelsea. 2 very tasty draws there. I think everyone was hoping just to get Arsenal. I mean, a few of the other 3 teams, even Newcastle, if we did the miracle of beating Manchester City, we're praying to get Arsenal. But I think everyone's hoping for Arsenal. And when Arsenal fans saw that they got Man City, I felt they were thrilled with that.
Yeah. Well, it's Man City getting the easiest team in the draw once again.
Once again. When they didn't have the second easiest team in the quarterfinal, obviously could have had Norwich, but no, again getting a. And I saw an interesting thing that the 4 semi-finalists of this season are the last 4 winners of the FA Cup, which is you can keep that one, Harry.
Conspiracy, maybe. No.
Conspiracy. But do we see Man City winning it again, retaining it, the FA Cup, or do we see... I mean, I think we hope that we see another team win it apart from Man City, but do we realistically see that happening?
See, I think if they face United, I think you've got to say United have got a chance. I mean, Man United have beaten them 3 times out of 4 meetings this season. So,
yes, they have.
United have got their number. Solskjaer's got Guardiola's number this season. So, yeah, I think if they were facing United, it's a derby in a final. I think who knows? I mean, as a Liverpool fan, that's the final I absolutely would not want, because if a team's going to win the trophy, I'd rather it be Chelsea or Arsenal. But I mean, even Chelsea have probably got a chance. But yeah, I think this wouldn't be as clear-cut a Man City in a domestic cup final as it has been in the last couple of seasons.
No, definitely. I mean, you could say if it's Man City against either Man United or Chelsea, I mean, I feel like we've completely sort of disregarded Arsenal from this conversation. But yeah, I mean, it could go either way, no matter which of those teams play. There's no, it's difficult one to pick, which is exactly what you want from a final.
Right, we'll finish off with the results of Odd One Out. I hope you've all come up with an answer. And Lewis, if you don't get 3 points, then are you even a Liverpool fan?
Oh, God.
Does anyone have an answer to start with?
Harry, have you just put a light on for the final?
Yeah. I was getting a bit kind of dark and mysterious.
Your screen looked really orange, and I was like,
yeah, I've been on the sunbeds, haven't I?
Yeah.
So.
Well,
he's got the flares out. He's one odd one out, and he's celebrating.
Yeah, he's just that confident. He's got the right answer.
Yeah. I'll do a little flicker of the light if I win.
Yeah,
I'll get to it. Anyway.
Just don't fire any at the Liver building.
Right, go on, Harry. As the returning superstar, we'll go with you with your answer for Odd One Out.
Right. So I had. I think this is kind of the obvious answer. I had James Milner because he's won a Premier League title before at Man City.
Okay. Matt?
I went with Dejan Lovren because he was the only one who started Liverpool's only Premier League loss this season.
Okay. Lewis?
Right, I went with a really obvious one. I went with what Harry said, Milner, as he's the only one that's won the Premier League title previously. But with that group of players, I feel like it's got to be something to do with their previous clubs. So I'm probably wrong.
Once again, you're all incorrect. It was to do with the player's age. Now, the answer is Jordan Henderson, because he was the only one born after the last time Liverpool won the league. Lovren, Milner and Lallana were all born before Liverpool won the title in 1990, whereas Jordan Henderson was born a couple of months after Liverpool lifted the trophy back then.
Oh, curveball once again from Adam
Once
Keeler.
again.
He keeps throwing them out.
You should be a baseball player.
Yes.
Was that the plan then, Adam, to throw us off the scent with the Milner thing? Did you think about that, or was that just like a byproduct?
Not really. I don't know. I didn't really think about
okay.
that. I just sort of looked through the Liverpool squad and looked at all their ages, because I heard someone, I think the game plan the other night, they were saying James Milner, the only one of this started that was actually alive when the last time they won the league. So I thought, I'll go on something lines of that. Looked at all the ages of the players, and
you could have thrown Andy Lonergan in. It would have made it a bit easier.
yeah.
They were
really
more of a
obvious.
couple. Well, I thought I'll better pick 4 players that have actually played this season, because I don't think Andy Lonergan has. But once again, no points for anyone.
We'll get some points one day.
One day.
Yeah, there's still a long way to go. But yes, we will end it there for this week's podcast. This will be going out on SoundCloud, on YouTube, and now Spotify. We're now all on Spotify. You can go back to listen to the previous podcasts on Spotify, which you can do on SoundCloud and YouTube as well. So give us a like and subscribe on all of those. And we will speak to you next week.